So we are going to now talk about the second step to simplifying expressions when you are adding and subtracting terms. You often will have parentheses in your problems, and if you look at the several problems that are in front of you right now, you can't actually combine anything inside these parentheses. So if you look inside number 1, x plus y, we can't combine those because those aren't like terms. So what we need to do is we need to get rid of the parentheses. Well, the distributive property says that you can take anything from the outside of the parentheses and you can multiply it by everything inside the parentheses. So if you look here, if you just look at the example, the definition here, that a right there is being multiplied times b plus c. What I can do is I can take that a and I can distribute it to the b and to the c and get ab plus ac. You could also distribute backwards. If you have a set of parentheses being multiplied by something, that a can get distributed to the b and the c through multiplication. And so that's what we're going to do now, is we're going to get rid of these parentheses. If you look at the very first problem, 3 is being multiplied by x plus y. So I can get rid of the parentheses by taking this 3 and multiplying it by everything in the parentheses. So 3 times x is 3x, and then 3 times y is 3y. So this answer is 3x plus 3y, and we can't combine those together because you can't add terms that are not like terms. So now number 2. Negative 2 is on the outside, and negative 2 is going to get distributed to the b and the 5. So now when you go to distribute that, you're multiplying negative 2 times b, which is negative 2, b, and then negative 2 times positive 5 is negative 10, which then changes the sign to minus 10. So I don't want you to write plus a negative 10. We're going to stay away from double signs. Even though subtracting 10 is the same as adding negative 10, when you distribute it, if you get a negative number, that means that term is negative, and then we're going to write minus instead of plus a negative. So number 3. Number 3, you have a 4 outside of the parentheses, so this 4 right here only gets distributed to the 3x and the 2, and the minus 5y is not part of the parentheses, so you don't distribute that. So when you distribute the 4, 4 times 3x is 12x, 4 times 2 is 8, so you're adding 8, and then you just bring down the minus 5y. And so all of that is not, none of those are like terms, so you can't combine any of those. However, if you want it to, you could rearrange the order and say this is 12x minus 5y plus 8, because we usually go in alphabetical order with our constants at the end. All right, so now number 4. Many of you might look at this problem and think that you're going to distribute the 8g, but if you look, the 8g is being added to the parentheses with the h at the end. So what's being multiplied is the h at the end. So this h at the end is going to get distributed this way. The 8g just comes straight down. So I'm going to write 8g, and then I'm going to distribute the h's. So h to 7, h times 7 is 7h. Because it's positive 7h, I'm going to write plus 7h. And then I'm going to do h times negative h is negative h squared, so I'm going to write minus h squared. And none of those are like terms, so I, again, can't combine them. However, I could rearrange the order by putting everything in alphabetical order by going negative h squared plus 8g plus 7h. Now, to me, order doesn't really matter. I'm just showing you that typically you would put things in alphabetical order. All right, so now, number 5, if you look at number 5, I'm going to circle the x here because that's getting distributed to the 2, the x, and the y, or the negative x and the y. So then I do 2 times x is 2x, x times negative x is negative x squared, and then x times y is positive xy. So we're going to say plus xy. You could write plus yx, but usually when we're multiplying two variables together, again, we put them in alphabetical order. If you want, you can rearrange it so that the negative x squared comes first, then you have the 2x, and then the xy. And honestly, when you have double variables, sometimes your double variable goes in the middle, and then the other variable goes at the end. You'll understand more about the order later, but honestly, order really doesn't matter. Okay, so number 6. Now number 6, lots of people try to do 3 minus 2 first. but that's subtracting before you multiply. So you always have to distribute first. So if you look, I have the 2 there. I'm going to distribute -2 because you keep the sign that's in front of it. So that 3 right there, it just comes straight down. And then I distribute -2, and I do -2 times 4y is -8y, and then -2 times not just x, negative x is positive 2x. So you write plus 2x. So you really have to pay attention to the signs. And so now I'm going to rearrange it so that it's in order, so that it says 2x minus 8y plus 3. All right, so all of these problems are a little bit different, so my suggestion is to just stay tuned into the video and make sure that you fully have it. So taking a look at number 7, here we have a minus sign in front of the parentheses. That minus sign, like many times, can act as a -1. So if you have a minus sign in front of the parentheses, what that means is you're subtracting everything in the parentheses, which means I'm subtracting 3x and I'm subtracting 2. And so when I go to distribute it, if you distribute it like a -1, then you're not going to mess up. So that's a -1. We're going to distribute it in there. -1 times 3x would be -3x. And then -1 times 2 is -2. So my answer is -3x minus 2. Don't write plus and -2, no double signs. All right, number 8. Go ahead and see if you can circle the thing that's going to be distributed and draw a line to what it's getting distributed to. So we're distributing the 2x to the 4y and the -x. So I'm multiplying 2x times 4y. That's going to give me 8xy. And then I multiply 2x not just times x, but by -x, which is going to give me -2x squared. So that's minus 2x squared. So my answer is 8xy minus 2x squared. You could rearrange it so that it says -2x squared plus 8xy, and that's the same answer. All right, number 9. Again, paying attention to the signs. Here we are going to distribute -6 to the x and to the -5. So we're multiplying -6 times x is -6x, and then we're multiplying -6 not by 5, but by that whole term, -5, which gives us positive 30. So we're going to write plus 30. So don't write any signs down until after you multiply. So you multiply a negative times a negative, which ends up giving me a positive. So the answer is -6x plus 30. If you feel like stopping the video and trying 10, 11, and 12 by yourself, go for it. All right, number 10. I'm distributing the -3x to 5x and 2y. -3x times 5x is -15x squared. And -3x times 2y is -6xy. Done. Number 11, what's being distributed is to the stuff on the right. 2b is getting distributed to b to give me 2b squared, and then 2b is getting distributed to -5 to give me -10b. So the final answer is 2b squared minus 10b. Number 12, that minus sign is getting distributed to everything inside the parentheses like a -1. So -1 times 4x squared is -4x squared. And -1 times 3y is -3y. And -1 times -7 is positive 7. So essentially what happens when you distribute the negative, whenever you multiply something by -1, the sign changes to its opposite. So you need to know the distributive property in order to simplify expressions when you're adding and subtracting, because an expression is only simplified when, number 1, all grouping symbols are gone. So all grouping symbols are gone. And that's why I taught you the distributive property, because when you distribute, the parentheses go away. So that's an important thing to recognize. And then the next thing to know is that all like terms are combined. All like terms are combined, which is what we learned yesterday. Combining like terms. So if you notice this big box, it has a bunch of stars next to it. That's usually because it's important. So make sure that you know these two things. So basically, to simplify expressions like these, you're going to distribute to get rid of the grouping symbols, and then you're going to combine your like terms. So let's practice that together. So for all of these, we have to distribute first because that's like multiplication. And what I want you to do is I want you to circle the thing that gets distributed and then draw lines to what you're distributing it to. That way you know. All right, so number one, before you combine any like terms, you have to distribute because you've got parentheses. So what I have here is this positive 3, and we're not just going to circle the 3, we're going to circle the sign in front of it. We are distributing positive 3 to the x and the negative 8. So now I'm just going to bring down the negative 5y that's there, bring it straight down, and then I'm going to distribute. So 3 times x is positive 3x, so I get plus 3x. And then 3 times negative 8 is negative 24, so I'm going to write minus 24. And then the minus 5y here at the end, I just bring that straight down because it's not inside the parentheses. So then the next thing I do, I think about combining my like terms. Well, if you look, negative 5y and negative 5y are like terms, and those are my only like terms. I'm going to write the 3x first because x comes before y, and then I'm going to combine negative 5y and negative 5y. So negative 5y minus 5y is negative 10y. You can also look at that as negative 5y plus negative 5y because subtracting is the same as adding a negative. And then you bring down your constant of minus 24. Number 2, I'm going to circle not just 8, but negative 8, because that negative 8 is going to get distributed to everything inside my parentheses. I'm going to bring this 3 straight down. So I have 3 minus, I'm going to distribute negative 8y, or negative 8 to y, so I get negative 8y, which is why I wrote my minus sign there. And then negative 8 times 3 to get negative 24. And then negative 8 times not just x, you got to pay attention to this whole term. Negative x is positive 8x. And then I'm going to look for my like terms. My only like terms are my constants, 3 and negative 24. But I'm going to write 8x first because it comes before y, and constants go at the end usually. And then I'm going to write minus 8y. And then I'm going to combine 3 minus 24 are my constants to leave me with negative 21. All right, number 3. I'm going to go ahead and put my answer down here, but I'm going to go ahead and circle the 3h, and the 3h goes to the 7 and negative h. So 3h times 7 is 21h, and 3h times negative h is negative 3h squared. My parentheses go away, and then I just bring down minus 9h squared. And then I combine my like terms. The h squareds get combined. Don't forget this is negative 3h squared minus 9h squared. That gives me negative 12h squared. And then I have this term left over, 21h. It's positive, so I write plus 21h. So I think this is a good point if you want to stop the video and try 4, 5, and 6 on your own. Tune back in and see if you're getting them correct. So for number 4, I'm distributing the 4x to 3x and 2. So 4x times 3x is 12x squared, and 4x times 2 is 8x. Bring down the minus 5x. Combine your like terms, which would be 8x minus 5x. I'm just going to bring the 12x squared straight down. So I have 12x squared. 8x minus 5x is 3x. So I have plus 3x. Number 5. Number 5, you have 2 sets of parentheses and 2 things to distribute. So in number 5, you're going to circle the 4, and the 4 goes to the n and the 4. And then you don't just circle 3 in the next one, you circle -3. Gets distributed to 2n and -1. So then now 4 times n is 4n. 4 times 4 is positive 16, so I'm writing plus 16. And then -3 times 2n is negative 6n. And -3 times -1 is positive 3. It's really important that you have the signs right. So now combine your like terms. So 4n minus 6n is negative 2n. And then 16 plus 3 is 19. So you have negative 2n plus 19. All right, number 6. You're distributing negative x to the 2, negative x, and y. Negative x times 2 is negative 2x. Negative x times negative x is positive x squared. Negative x times y is negative xy. And none of those are like terms, so you can't put them together. But lots of times you will see the x squared written first. And then you can say minus 2x minus xy, or you can even say minus xy minus 2x. It honestly doesn't matter. You also can leave your answer as negative 2x plus x squared minus xy. All right, if you did really well on those other two, go ahead and try the next 5 and 6. I had a little misprint there. These are actually 7 and 8, but you can go ahead and try these, or you can just tune in. So number 5, you have minus signs in front of your parentheses. So in number 5, you're not distributing the 7 to the a and the 4 because 7 is being subtracted from a and 4. So you distribute the minus sign like it's a negative 1. So the 7 just comes straight down. So I have 7 minus a minus 4 because you're distributing negative 1 to a and 4. And then the second set of parentheses, again, you're distributing the minus sign. You're not distributing the 8 at the end because it's being added, not multiplied, okay? So then you are distributing that minus sign, so you get minus 2a plus 8, and then plus another 8, because I just bring down this plus 8. And so now combine your like terms. So I've got here negative a and negative 2a. The negative a is like a negative 1a. Negative 1a minus 2a is negative 3a. And then I'm going to combine my constants. So I've got 7 minus 4 is 3. And 3 plus 8 is 11. Plus 11 plus 8 is 19. So I get negative 3a plus 19. All right. Number 6. I threw a fraction in here because lots of times you freak out when there are fractions, but you don't need to, because negative 3/4, first of all, don't change it to a decimal. You know how to work with fractions. Negative 3/4, the denominator here is 4. Look at everything inside your parentheses there. You're going to distribute that to 12, 16, and 20. Since all of those 3 numbers are divisible by your denominator, you can do this in your head. So think about it. Negative 3/4 of 12. Think of 1/4 of 12. 1/4 of 12 is 3, so 3/4 of 12 must be 9. So you're multiplying by a negative. I'm going to put this down here. So you get negative 9. And then negative 3/4 times negative 16x, well, that's going to give you positive 12x. Because 3/4 of 16 is 12, right? A fourth of 16 is 4. 3 times 4 is 12. And then negative 3/4 times 20y, well, that's going to give me negative 15y, because 3/4 of 20 is 15. And then bring down what's on the outside of the parentheses, the minus 2 minus 10x. And then combine your like terms. So if you look, 12x minus 10x is 2x, and you don't have any other y's, so bring down the negative 15y, and then combine your constants. Negative 9 minus 2 is negative 11, and your answer is correct right there. If you continue on to the back, you should complete those problems for homework.